Hoya e hey e hey ya e hey e hey e ya hoya e hey e ya a hey hui e yo hui e ya e yo hui e yo hey hey ya e hey oh e hey ya hey ya hey yo hey ya hey yo hey ayonina napi na dosi no stokoi gayo stabai de bio ni daka kotsi masanan spomo so organic so kana geeks kipidakis kistaki cakes namska cakes kainaps cakes spomo sakina ken kematu kenan napi na dosi spomo sa Nanamska cakes and Akinakiakis at a picket to mix nipo makis connection taxi puyushik shikami pokaks. Apapate seat to people cax neat to kani kokani is a 6 seat to piva. Spomosa na ak 6 akok 6 na coke 6 nisa coke 6. Spomosa kemat to gran tani. Na ako gets kikis got to penan sapomapi. Kitty cap salmon to piece and some bad to piece and come on tani. Just a quick prayer to help us all today on our way. Thank you for your prayers this morning. I am happy to see all of you here and welcome our friends and relatives from Siksaka, Kaina, Batosi, Pikani, the 68 seat to Piwa, and all of you that have taken the time to just be here is very enlightening for us. And we see relatives we haven't seen in the past 3 years because of pandemic. And this is probably the second time I've been able to do this in person. It has been because of the pandemic. Something like this is really hard to do over Zoom, so I'm so happy to be able to do it in person. I'm going to use the presentation board too as well, and then at the end of the session, when we have about 15 minutes left, Tommy, or would you please let us know, because I'd like you all to make yourself a sachet of tea to take home with you. So we're going to go through this as quickly as we can. We have, an hour? So we'll have to, in between that, you'll have to take a washroom break or water. Do we have some water available? I left mine in the car. I'm sorry. Please, it would be great. So I'm going to start off with the way I usually start this in my presentations. The traditional medicine and herbal sources are what we term as our way of life. I am not fluent in the language, so you'll have to excuse me. Those of you that are, help me. I ask you, Spoombookit, if there's something that you correct me on, please do so. That's the way we all work together. But I am Darnell That was given to me by my great-grandfather. You heard George and Mary Ellen this morning talk about John Ground. I was the last grandchild he gave that a name to in the 50s, so I'm very old. But anyway, Nito Gimme is my name. I was named after the area we come from is west here, Star School area, and my grandparents had the Sistako Mahquiniman for many, many years. While I was in my mother's stomach, that's where we slept under the bundle. And my father was building us a house, so we stayed there with the old folks, and we were camped alone, so that's how I got the name Nito Gimme, lone camper. And I'm very proud of that. I've never changed it, and I don't think I ever will, because the old man and everybody else is gone, and I'll stick to that one. But my mother was a Sakhramo. My father was Apomachkan. Her mother before her was also good leader, Sakhramo, and her husband was Inochkini. And before that, of course, there was Bitonista and Matiyu Kimiaki. I have a book down there with Grasswoman stories a bit that my mother and my grandmothers collaborated on. Not big ones, but they're actually just booklets. You see in the smudging, a lot of people ask why, but all of you really know that that's our connection to Creator. And as that smoke rises, it recognizes us by our names, who we are, where we come from, and our needs for the day or our thanks for the day, and the things that we usually pray for, our health and well-being, our families, our children, and then during this pandemic, the respect that we have for that pandemic and the respect that we have for all things, that we're all equal, and we continue to realize that as a we community instead of I. Part of the things I talk about is from Not Be's world, and this rendition is a real good example of Not Be coming in and spilling all the animals to the world for us. And we see the plants, we see the water, we see the birds, we see the animals, and also the fact that most of these animals, almost every one of them, either have two toes on them, and that's what we were given, to the two-toed animals, especially in need for our food, our sustenance, and then all those other animals that fall into place. The old man used to tell us, you don't eat things that have claws or paws, because they'll do that to your stomach inside. But today we kind of enjoy Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I don't know, Grandma, when she's, during the later years when she'd serve, banquet chicken came out in these little boxes, and she just loved banquet chicken. So she said, just don't worry about it. They're not going to claw your stomach. But that's kind of some of the lessons all the animals have brought us, what the things that the universe has given us. And amongst those are the water and the plants. And that's what's been near and dear to me is the plants. Those old people were my teachers. And most of those old people are gone, so I converse with a lot of people. Some at Siksika, some mostly William Singer at Napi's Garden, and other ones that have taken this interest. We're kind of a small minority, and there's very few here that have what we call estabianima, everybody's medicine. And that everybody's medicine is the things we can all use, and that's what you see, some of the things here. And most of the time, we don't realize that we only have these two seasons, the summer and the winter, and that's what our people work towards. All summer we work towards living in the winter and vice versa. So in our lodge, which is the Mamyasikamikulkan, we have a red above the door and a green in the back. So the summer and the winter explains the two seasons. My grandchildren say it means stop and go, which it does. You stop, you come in. The other thing that's really important in growing are these factions here. Of course, for us, Gokkumik Kisum is the woman in the moon. And I wished I had my laser so we could, in the Pikani Woman Studies, we talk about the female aspect of our universe. Maybe this will work, maybe it won't. I will try it. Do you have a laser, Tommy Joe? Do you have a laser? Well, this might just work. Oh, goodness, no. It's not going to. But anyway, when it's a full moon, and there's a reason behind a full moon in our Genesis, in our creation stories, the full moon will dictate to you planting times and certain things that you can do, gather, other things that you should not do. And in our Genesis stories, you can see the Kipitaki, the old lady sitting with her straight up bonnet this way. And then you can see the back of her head and her face coming around her shoulders. Her back is arched this way. And then down in here, her knees are under her and she's got her hands in her lap. That's how I see it. And that's how I was taught, is to recognize this way. And it's really a good lesson. The other female entity is Kaskumitapi, the earth, because the sun had two wives. And that's also in the genesis of our creation. Our close association with the Kakatusi, or the stars, is really prevalent in our plants as well. In Ikasikamiks, on the lodge itself, when we do the designs on there, those are the 7 brothers, or literally translated to cold feet. Those are those 7 stars on that side. And everything up here is the sky, everything down here is the ground, and of course the dream is in the middle, the lodge. But those 7 brothers are responsible for dirt, for the water, for the big oceans, for the forests, other plants and trees, because they each had a gift that they were given by their father, the sun. And the reason they were given that gift is because their mother, the moon, was chasing them. And that story that would take us a couple hours to sit and do that story. You know that one? Where Kipitaki she's been wooed by the snake man, and the sons discovered it, and they told their dad, the sun, and he gave them each a gift. 1 water, 1 wind, the air, the dirt, the rocks, the trees, and whatever. So when you see that full moon come out, and it's shining across a lake, she's still chasing them. And she's still doing that today. The sun is going this way, and she's going that way and chasing them. But for them, when they threw out those obstacles where she couldn't catch them, they were taken to the sky by their father, the sun. So they became that prominent marking for us, and that's what we put on that side of the lodge. The other is this one. On the other side is the Mi'ubukuksi is the lost children, and those lost children go back to the story of them wanting the red buffalo calf robes, which would become the door to the lodge. And those are the dots up there. So what we teach is that these are also responsible for a planting cycle and a cycle. The only time you can really see that constellation up there, which the White Society calls the Pleiades, is now. Early in the spring, you'll see that coming out really prominent in the west, and then towards the summer, it'll start getting darker. That's because that's also the cycle of those baby calves being born, that buffalo calf robe. This is another important uyis. All of you have this. You have a belly button, and the universe has one too. That's where the Holy Woman and her baby were lowered down through that hole, because that's when she dug the turnip. And she came back to the earth through that star. Everybody in the universe today follows the North Star for direction. For people that don't know where they're at on the ocean, they find out where the North Star is, and then they can gauge where they're going, either by ship or boat or by whatever. And it's really prominent in our creation. Another one is Ipisuwas, which is portrayed on our lodges. These 4 triangles here also brought down a plant. Now, remember when I said everything's up here? On the top is the sky, on the bottom is the ground. That star there is the son of Morning Star and Feather Woman. And that is kind of similar to, how many of you seen that show, Percy Jackson? Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, Percy Jackson. Well, the mother is a mortal, and Percy Jackson's dad is Zeus. And then there's another one that he's the god of, is that the god of water, Zeus? No. The guy with the trident. Anyway, it's the similar story. So anyway, he gets taken back to the sky, and he becomes Scarface, and the whole Okan is patterned after this concept with the Morning Star and his mother. So this little guy here becomes a puffball, and a puffball is a plant, and that plant is the one that gives, thank you so much. It has a powder substance to it. Can you all see that there in the puffball? But we use that for many things, but we remember it by putting it on the bottom of our lodges. Some have double, some have just one on the bottom. So that's important as we progress in plant life and progress with trees and the different things, because Creator made it all equal in our environment. I'm no better than you, you're no better than me, we're no better than the universe or anybody else, we're equal. And I think that's what Mr. Heavier Honor was talking about this morning, as we become removed from that equality part where a we community, we become a I community. So these are just part of the environment that we need to respect. You all know Nanastokoi. This is Pita Makan, or running eagle. We were successful in changing this name back to Pita Makan. The National Geographic and the environmental USGS and whatnot named it Trick Falls, but in the 80s, my mother and I and a few of us changed this back to Running Eagle Falls, and there's a depiction of that as well. But when she's running really strong, there's 2 spillways that come over, and those spillways come from where we call Two Medicine, not Dukyukasi, where there were 2 medicine lodges put up in the area of what is now Glacier Park. That was our homeland. The other portrait over there, a picture, depicts a medicine lodge that was done by myself. Well, not by myself. I was involved in it. I was the one that was sitting holy. I had no idea they had taken this, and a storm, the weathermen prayed and the storm passed us over, and one of the people captured that. So that's very powerful when we're thinking about ethnobotany and herbology and the plants, how it becomes part of us. I mentioned that this is our magpie lodge. We're the only ones in the Confederacy that I know that have magpies. Everybody says magpies is a little pest, but these guys are kind of special to us, that When we're in there and there's no fire inside, you can see the magpies glow. But there's the red dot in the front and the green one is in the back. But these powers of healing have been something that our people have possessed all the time for preventative methods in the herbology and the ethnobotany. These are just a few of the plants that we have here. Some of them are not, and they're seasonal. Remember when I said there's summer and winter? The seasonal round dictates how they come. This one here is probably all gone by now. Gipiaki, or the old man, we used to call it old Napi's plant, because this was really important. It's one of the first ones that come out along with the buffalo flower. But this was also used for birth control methods. And few people remember that. Few people know that today. Few people collect it for that. It's the one with the little furry top. But if you're going towards East Glacier on the right, going towards East Glacier, right around your sister's place, that's all over in that field. All over in that field, but it's probably all gone now, like I said, because it's very short season for that one. There are these categories are the sacred and holy plants. Now those sacred and holy plants we're not going to talk about today because those are given to people for specific reasons. And some of us have the sacred medicines that we get dispersed for certain things that when people come to us. But everybody's medicine is what we all can use and what we all should be using. And that would include the Oregon grape. This is the Pipsissewa, and that is the bee balm or the manakapi. We have some of those samples here with us today. These are some of the things that I wanted to share with you because not only are there people medicine, there's animals and horse medicines that we used as well. Some of the native plants are real close to us in proximity and also in our confederacy are these major ones here. The Okanoke or the Saskatoon, as you know it in the North Country, Savisberry is really important. Without that berry, we don't have ceremonies. Without that berry, we don't have our social gatherings. And without that berry, we don't have that resveratrol and the nutrients that gives us. In white society, they say have a glass of red wine every day. Well, in our society, we say have at least a fourth a cup of Savisberry every day, or a I guess you could say what would we call it, an Indian pacifier, where the old ladies would mix that with berries, and the babies would suck on the Savisberry, chokecherry, and other juices from some of the berries that we have here. The other is the plants that we use for preventative major and also for preservative is the mint. And all of you know that the mint is really important. People have mint tea, people have mint everything, and I have a little sheet that I want to hand out to you. So if you'll help me get copies later, I'd like everybody to have a copy. This is the wild mint, and today people use this for many, many things, but for us it's both preservative. I'm going to go ahead and start passing these around, so feel free to just maybe sprinkle it in your hand this way so you don't, yeah, there. But all those plants that are the mint family have a square stem. And people don't recognize that. See how square that stem is compared to the round of the chokecherry or any other plant. They're the square stemmed plants are all of the mint family. The other is that over here there's a story about the paintbrush. This young lady was lost in her marriage. She had to leave her camp because she married out of the band or out of the people. And she became lonesome, so she was looking for her people, and she was up on a hill, and she saw her camp below. So she started to cry, and she was lonesome and wanted to go home, but she couldn't. They banished her. So what she did is she gashed herself, and wherever her blood dropped on the ground, they say that's where a paintbrush comes. There's a story that goes with that. Ask your grandmas, and you might even know that one, huh? You can pass it on to your children and grandchildren. In the middle there, I had my grandchildren just pick some things that were around the house. There's the yampa, the wild carrot, the bistort, there's a potato, there's yarrow, there's chickweed in there, mouse-eared chickweed, a little bit of arnica. But those are the things that just grow wild on our prairie. We have some of those here today. And that's what everybody can use. The major, some of the major NFL, NHL, these professional athletes will use arnica for their sore muscles. and it grows here in Montana. It's called Arnica montana, but it does grow in the North Country too, up there across the border. That medicine line raises heck with a lot of things. It causes us to have to stop and go, and sometimes it makes us good tall tale tellers. No, I don't have any of this stuff when I'm crossing the line. But I just recently found out I can buy strawberries up there and bring them across. But you can't do avocados. You have to have them mashed. Don't know the difference, but did you know that? No. We just found out we could freely bring back pink popcorn and ketchup chips. And meat. So anyway, that goes with that. I'm going to pass out another mint that I mentioned earlier, so you can see the stem. Feel free to go ahead and smell them. This one I would probably not take any of it because it's very strong, but you can see that is the manakapi or the bee balm. Again, the stem is square. And I have different mints that I want to share with you. One last thing I'd like to talk about is the usage of these two berries is really strong, not only for the soups, but when you're doing choke cherry, mashed cherries, or bakgip, you have the choke cherry patty, and you can feel free to take some of this if you wish. And then you have the oak. And mixed with the dried meat and fat, makes a real good cake for traveling. That's what the men would take for that's the first trail mix, ladies and gentlemen. That's the first trail mix. I mean, we see all this trail mix nowadays. Well, we had those things. We had the best nutritional values. We had the keto diet before keto came out. We had the original paleo diet. All these things were there for us, but we had that season to gather these medicines for our healing and staying well. I passed the bee balm, huh? Yeah. Okay, there. So, choke cherry went out. Another berry is the huckleberry. There's huckleberry wars in Montana. Going to start up here soon. They do. Actually, some of our elders were picking huckleberries across on the west side, and they got shot at because people have territories, and you have to beat the Hutterites. Oh yeah. Yeah. Guinea is another berry that's really important. I'm going to pass this, and this one we'll just leave in the jar, but you can see it separately. Long ago, they used to use these to, good morning, good afternoon. They would use this to barter and trade with. So the more necklaces you had of the guinea, the wild rose hips, the more bartering power you had. But also remember these, they're whole, the whole berry you do not eat. You only eat the skins, and these are the skins. Or else when you do make tea with them and you have the whole berry, don't ingest them, because what we call them is ichi-usi berries. They go in and out. How do you say that in the language? You would say ichi-usi berry or scratchy berry? Well, when you think of it, let me know. But that is kind of the joke, but that is powerful. That is a lot of vitamin C. The rose hips itself is packed with vitamin C. The plant itself, well, I think we have a picture of a rose hip coming up here soon. The plant itself is got the little rose, and that's the Alberta flower. Those rose petals, when you take them and eat them, they're very sweet, they're nutritious, they're good. And I take them, and in the spring, my grandchildren and I gather them, and we make a rose oil. And it's good for your skin. It's good for sometimes bug bites. You can rub it on there, and it works really well. So that's really important. Choke cherry and savasberry, the stems, the twigs, are used for the buttons or the pegs or the pins, for the lodges. They're very strong to make utduatsis or your walking sticks, but they're also versatile for other medicines. If you eat too many of the choke cherry, it's like you ate a lot of peanut butter. So you'd be talking like this and your mouth was all brown. Yeah, you know. When that happens and you do get stomach ache, a belly ache, and you got to run to the bathroom, we call it Rocky Mountain quick steps, other AKA diarrhea. You can make a tea with the bark of the choke cherry and get rid of that diarrhea. So it's good for, it'll make you have the runs or else it'll cure your runs. Here we go. These are some of the pictures that we have in the area. There's a rose hip there. That's what it looks like before it's in that form, where that just went around to you. That's what it looks like. So next time you see those stickers out there, remember, those are hard to gather. There's a story of some young people just lately where we use our traditional laws sometimes for teenagers and young people that are doing things they shouldn't be doing. Well, these young girls went and they took some jewelry from a neighbor's house. And the lady that would missed her jewelry, she wondered where it was. So found out it was these young girls that took it. So when those young girls went to court, the judge just happened to be traditional in new traditional law. She told them, for your punishment, you have to go collect rose hips. Have you ever tried to pick them? Roses, has anybody ever tried to pick roses? There's stickers there. There's burrs. There's thank you so much. You could just bring them and set them on this corner there next time. Thank you. So that was their punishment. They didn't have to pay a fine. They didn't have to sit in time in juvie. They ended up having to pick rose hip necklaces. And that was what they learned their lesson, believe me. They did. They really did. So the old people knew those traditional laws very well. These are some of the other plants that are in our area. It's the baby moccasin. You can see it's just so cute. You don't dig the root, you clip it if you have to. But a lot of people don't realize that. They just take it because it's a pretty little flower. So this baby moccasin flower is going kind of extinct. So they're asking people not to pick it when it is. Again, this is like the the Gipiapi flower. It's only seasonal. And you can sometimes see it up in the walk to Pitamakan Falls. On the other side, tojam root, valerian. That's where the pharmaceuticals, the greater pharmaceuticals have gotten Valium. And once you smell this, you'll never forget it. Valerian root is gathered on a seasonal basis, and every time I go towards St. Mary's, I just cringe and cry because there's a whole patch that the old lady taught me where to gather and how to gather this, and the construction just plowed it out. So I hope it grows back. Yes, ma'am.
Is that necklace guinea?
That's guinea. The red one, the big red one that went around. So once you smell this, it smells like your kids left their gym socks in their hockey bags for 2 months. It does. It's toe jam. Toe jam. That's valerian. Again, another seasonal one. There's 3 types in this area. There's the white valerian, the Sitka valerian, and the kind of the pink valerian in this area alone. And you can smell it if you walk through we'll go on one of these plant hikes. I'll take the MSU nurses out next week, and we'll try to get to where we can smell it and see it. But valerian is really important to us. It'll cure headaches. It'll also help people with insomnia. But you have to know how to do it right. Some of them you can boil, some of you can't. Some of them you can infuse, and some of them you just let sit. You steep. And some people don't know that. I had a lady friend, she decided she was going to fix her husband's, what did she call it? He couldn't sleep. He had migraines. So she boiled up some valerian root and knocked him out for 3 days. She thought she killed him, but it actually put him to sleep. It was like a sedative, but she cooked it the wrong way. Had she went through the whole process and learned how to prepare, it would have been different. So that's important too, is learning how to do these things on a preparational basis rather than just jumping into it and saying, well, I know all this. In this area alone, I've seen people come that have taken a class, either here or someplace else, and say, well, I'm going to go get this patch of sweetgrass, or I'm going to go get valerian. And I've seen trucks literally pull up with a flatbed and just big old chunks taken out and hauled away from here. We don't have a resolution or protection as gatherers of our plants to protect them so people don't do that. Last year was a big warning. There was hardly any berries all over the whole Confederacy. That should have told people what the old people would say. If there's a lot the year before, you gather. You gather when they're available. Last year people were scrambling. Some people here were going all the way up into Edmonton to buy berries. That's against our traditional law. You got to gather. Like I have a relative in Siksaka, his sisters he was bugging his sisters. They were picking berries, and they told him, just go find your own berries. And so he did. He come back, he had 5-gallon buckets in less than a little time. And they said, why did you do that? He said, I just bought them from the Hutterites. I'm kind of in love with these pictures that I took myself of the Okanoke. And one of the things that I had to learn in my process was the scientific name that I never call it. And sometimes I don't even recognize it, Amelanchier elemifolia. But that's it in full bloom there. That's what it looks like. Don't let the other ones fool you. There's a plant that looks exactly like our Okanoke, and it is the hawthorn berry. And they grow in clusters as well. Hawthorn is a good medicine for heart, but it's now just now blooming. It'll look exactly like the Savis berry. It grows in clusters, and it's easier to pick. It's faster, but it has more seeds in it. It's seedier, and it also has just a little bit of skin on it. It's not as sweet. And you'll recognize it if you ever come into it. But it's very, very, I guess what we would say, special to us. In the springtime, when we hear the first thunder, is when we make the Nanamska ceremonies. And my grandmother would trade or get bitterroot. And everybody knows what the X666 is. Yeah. And what you do is you take this and break it into smaller pieces. My kids call them Indian gummy worms, because once they're reconstituted and set in the water, they will become real soft, but they're very bitter. Our neighbors to the west, the Salish, Kootenai, Ponderay, Kalispell, and Spokane, have bitterroot ceremonies, and I think theirs are over now. But my grandmother would trade with the people from Oregon, and that's what we put in our soup in the spring for the thunder ceremony, is the bitterroot. But it's also good for the healing of the throat. It heals coughs, colds, anything to do with kind of like flus and lung disorders. Again, we're going to just quickly go over the pahkip or the kini. That's what it looks like. That's the string I passed around. So when you pick it, you be very careful. You can do it with gloves on or not with gloves on, or you can just clip it off with a scissor if you like. The kini will also heal different things, that if you make different variations with it, you can mix it with sage as well as mint and maybe choke cherry, and you'd have a very good cough medicine. Here's a couple things I just passed out: the white root or the bitter root, the mississauga. Everybody knows the story of the mississauga, right? It's called the lazy woman's wood. This is the camas, because you could smell it if it was in her fire. If she put it in her fire, it smells like excrement. It smells very, very mississauga. But that, I think, this beautiful plant to me was misnamed. But for some reason, we have the literal translation as the lazy woman's wood. Find that story. That'll be an assignment for you here. Find that story. Find out about the mississauga. Why does it stink? Why is it smelly? Because we usually use cottonwood as we burn for our fires. But that one there will tell. If you're a lazy woman gathering that wood long ago in a camp, that would tell the story. So find that story. I bet you most of your mothers and grandmothers know it. I told you a little bit about the Indian paintbrush. This alum root is really special to me, because when I was first going out with my grandmother, she would say, let's go get sleepyheads. So I'd drive her, and I'd sit there with my kids, or I'd be nursing a baby, and she said, this is what you do now, you go get it. And I would bring it back to her, and she'd smell it and whatnot and not think anything of it. So when she passed, I had to gather this myself, and I couldn't get it. I went to the exact same spot, did everything she told me to do, still wasn't there, and I just started to cry. I told her, I can't do this, Grandma, you're gone. What shall I do? So I start to pray, look down, and it's right there by my feet. So there's a key there. When you gather, you pay tribute back to the earth for what you're getting. and don't over-harvest. This alum root of the sleepyheads is what she used to cure open sores or wounds. It's an astringent, and it will do that. It's like you can make a paste out of it. And the reason she wanted it that particular time was one of the kids had chicken pox, which is kind of out of, I don't know if we have it. Do we have it, nurses? Do we still have chicken pox?
Yes.
Yeah. So that makes you scratch it. There's an open oozing wound. Well, one of her granddaughters had that, so she put that alum on there, and immediately it brought her relief, and it began to heal that open wound because it drew out the discomfort, but it also drew out the cause of that, and it became real kind of dry. That's what alum is. You can buy alum on the market today. You can buy it in the spice racks and in the grocery stores. But this is the local one. This is the wild one. It's also called coral bells in the greenhouses and whatnot, because it does have these little coral bells on it. But it has a long stem that comes up and over, as you can see there. But sleepyheads has a big story for me, and I will continue to use that as long as I possibly can. Again, we talked about the square stems of all the mint. I passed around the horse mint and Manakapi. I have chocolate mint, spearmint, Colorado mint, North Dakota mint, and Badger Creek mint. That's what you're going to make tea with. Again, this is another seasonal flower, the balsam root. My husband's grandfather's, one of his main go-tos was the balsam root. This one is an ingredient in shampoos. It's an ingredient in soaps, lotions, oils. And it's really hard to not to read those because they're all in scientific languages. But nowadays you're beginning to see more of I guess in ingredients where they have sunflower, they'll have peppermint, they'll have lavender. But this one here is good for headaches, and it's hard as a rock, but again, it's seasonal. It's leaving now. You could see it all over the sides. Last couple weeks ago, it was so beautiful because everything was just yellow with that one. The balsam root, it's the umahka, it's the big root. Not to be confused with the sunflower. You can see the difference. The balsam root has the dark middle, the sunflower has the yellow middle. And people confuse that. And even the leaves on them are almost similar, and their stems are round and they're kind of fuzzy, but there's a big difference. Yes, ma'am?
Are those purple ones toxic in the butt?
That one is the larkspur. It would depend on I wouldn't eat it, but some of them are, some of them aren't. And it depends on the season. When it's coming from the ground and coming up, that's when all the nutrients are coming out, and sometimes that's when those toxins do appear. When it starts going back after its season has ended, it'll start going back into the root. Then that's when the flower head dies or the fruit dies. So you could research that a little bit more. Go ahead and research it and see what you come up with. And you can email me the answer or what you find. Very good. Food is medicine as well. When I talked about the gathering of our berries, this is kind of our summer. We do this on a yearly basis, and this is just one of our trips, but that's what we do. I think we got probably 10, 12 gallons that day, but a total of 50 within 2 or 3 days. So, and we use them all. We use them all. We eat them every day, and then people that don't have any, we share them for ceremony. When grandkids have their first tooth, when grandkids take their first step, I send berries all over to my grandkids because half of them live in Colorado. But they'll say, "Grandma, I want berry soup." Well, I'll send their mother the berries. They can make their own soup. Elderberry, currantberry, fakip, Oregon grape. These are all very special and important berries in our confederacy as well. The elderberry is really, really super small. And you can take the cover, well, I guess I could take it off for you. This one has really become prevalent on the pharmaceutical market because you see elderberry cough syrup, elderberry cough drops, elderberry throat tonic, just everything. But the elderberries are so teeny tiny. And again, these are toxic at a certain stage in their growth. So you just don't eat lots of elderberries. They look like a little cluster of grapes when they're flowering, and they're so pretty. but you can make different things with them. Some people make elderberry syrup, cough syrup, like I said, but pharmaceuticals have learned that. So the elderberry is also in competition with us for gathering as well. Okay? I thought I had a sheet. Oh, yeah. Elderberry. The elderberry is, oh, darn, that's open. Oh, well, you got one, right? You got a sheet? Or you got a jar full. That's the elderberry there. That's the choke cherry. This one is the Oregon grape. The Oregon grape, you can see the clusters there. They're yellow. They're green, then they're yellow, and then they turn that beautiful blue. But they're mixed in here with another berry that we use in our kaksi. It's called kaksi, and that is mixed with the tobacco. It's this one, Oregon grape. What else is up there? Currant. Currant is the gooseberry. Very hard to dry. It's not like long ago when we had I'll just leave the covers on here, you can see them. They're the Oregon grape. I think maybe you can see a grape in there, but this is really important for female concoctions for females, for teas and brews for that. Ninna is the elder, right? Old man. Ninna, would you say elderberry? Buckkeep, Oregon grape. One of the others that you might see is there's a red currant, there's a black currant, a red gooseberry, and a dark, deep purple gooseberry. They're really bitter. They're astringent, they're bitter, they're good for you because you need to make that balance with sugar and alkali. So here's a good example of how it used to be long ago. The berries were gathered, put out on a hide or a big canvas, and those are all Savis berries. But that was the life of our people because they knew how important this was for us to gather them, dry them, preserve them, and store them for the winter and carry them on for the next season. When there is a ceremony, we take one berry out, and most of you know those that are here, some of you may not, and we pray together and then put it back into the ground so that there'll be more the next time. These are animals that are important to us as far as our genesis goes, but also part of the plants and the animals' cycle. And without these, there's elk food, there's buffalo food. These are our natural cultivators. Our natural cultivators. There's a good example here that when they brought the buffalo over close to the house back here, the field was all dry and bare. When they put the buffalo in there, they were there for a while. And when they removed them this year, all that grass in there is more cultivated, it's greener. Whereas when they had cows in there, the cows just ruin it. They stomp it down, they kill all the roots and the herbs, they eat all the sweet grass in there, but the buffaloes don't. They also sometimes have a little bird on their back, the buffalo birds, that have seeds in them. And when they shake their fur or else they wallow, those seeds come out and they replant. And you can see that. You can see that now right here. When you go out to 289 at the Y, it's greener and it's much more replenished. It's amazing what the buffalo are doing coming back. I think Fast Blackfeet has done a study on that, have you? Or PLHI? Okay. In Neowasin, literally our survival for everything, you all know those. Another thing that is really important is the water. I showed you earlier the picture of Pita Mahkan or Running Eagle. This is our grandkids. We take them every year to what we call the Wolf Willow Cabins. It's at the very center of our Old North Trail. And we take them out. There's beaver ponds there. We show them what to gather, when to gather, how to gather. And they're all running towards the water on that morning. And we teach them about the importance of water and the plants there. This is the spillway I told you about, Pita Mahkan, where Pita Mahkan is our woman warrior. Everybody knows of the manly-hearted woman here at Bikani. That's where she did her fasting. But Pita Mahkan has the double spillway there. You can see it pretty good here. But water is medicine. These are the benefits of water. If you drink a lot of water and possible cures. I know some people that don't drink water, and I can see the results. You have to have a certain amount. Your whole body is made up of so much water, huh? So you need to be able to replenish that all the time. And sometimes if you take this and you do an experiment with it, you can see. If you have asthma, you can mix it with some fine salt or sea salt and ingest it. But also this, if you take a little bit of the sea salt, some of the stuff that we used to gather down in the Great Salt Lake at the natural salt mines, put that in your hand, lick it and drink water. It's like replenishing those electrolytes in your body if it's been a hot day. Instead of going buying Gatorade, Powerade, what's this other stuff they're out with, Body Armor or Under Armour or something like that. It replenishes those electrolytes and gives you that energy back. So you can do all that. I think we have a copy of this page too. Tommy, how much time we have left?
It's 2 o'clock. We have till 2:30.
Oh, okay. Good. So in about 2 or 3 minutes, we'll open it up. So I want you all to be able to make some tea. Here's something else that we always forget in the plant cycle is fire. Now, just recently, what I think Chief Mountain, what do they call them? Chief Mountain Watchers and the first responders, the volunteer fire department, what they're doing now is controlled burns like we used to in the old days. These controlled burns are respected. These controlled burns are also very important because once those burns happen, those plants become alive again. I think when you see up there where our forest burnt so much during that Boy Scout fire, we lost so much timberland. But when the fire went through that next season, people were up there gathering morel mushrooms because the morel mushrooms started to come back because the fire made that happen. Seeds popped and the land and the earth was replenished, and that even that carbon that's in there and also some of the nutrients went back into the ground. But we respect that fire like we respect the water and the wind and also that COVID. They have a special power. You can't see it sometimes, you can't feel it sometimes, it just creeps up on you. But you feel this. You feel the heat. And you know that it's going to do something good, but sometimes not all the time. How many of you sit around your campfire in your lodges in Indian days or you just get mesmerized and hypnotized by that fire? That's how much power it has. That's just a small example of what it can do for plants. I talked a little bit about my grandmother. That's her there. I used to take her home every morning. She's the inventor of espresso, by the way. She'd take off that lid off of her stove, put her fire on that, and that little coffee pot she'd put right on top of there, and she'd put that much coffee grounds in there and that much water and let it boil. She'd take it and she'd move it to the side of the stove where she had a little reservoir. You don't see those anymore. And that reservoir was full of warm water. Well, that warm water, all she'd do is take her cup. She had this favorite cup, something like the mugs we got today. And she'd put that much coffee in there, the rest canned milk, and then the rest hot water. So that's espresso. That's what they sell in Starbucks and Tim Hortons for like $5 a cup, 8 ounces. But she invented it back in the day. So my grandmother, that's my mother. Cynthia Kip, good leader. Of course, these guys are all gone now. But they were my teachers, and they will continue to be my teachers. This one here was her mother, Cecile Ground. She was designated the first Miss Blackfeet in 1905. Prior to that, they called it Dawn Mist, or else they just called her an Indian princess. But she was one of the ones that would travel back and forth on the Great Northern with her dad, and Two Guns White Calf, and Little Owl, and all the ones from Star School. They would go to New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and they would be advocates and ambassadors of goodwill for the Great Northern as well as the Glacier National Park. And they were all very proficient in plants, especially the old grandma. I still have her medicine sack. I got it back a couple years ago. It was lost, and somebody found it and brought it to the house and went through our relatives, and it was stuck in somebody's closet. But some of those roots are the same things I have here on the table with me today. These are some of my other teachers. These are the ones that transferred to us, Nyukskana and Gomskini and Agakana. Molly was very proficient. She was also very obstinate and very, very strong in her teachings. Sometimes I would be standing in ice cold Kennedy Creek washing roots for her, like horsetail or other things that we would gather. But she also was very, very knowledgeable in the plant medicine, both the everybody's medicine and then the natural, the holy medicines. I seen her cure sprained ankles overnight with the things that the herbs that she knew, the roots that she knew. Agekana was the one that was proficient in holding on to the ukan and the beaver medicine, and if it wasn't for him, that wouldn't be here. There's a lot of stories that go in. We call him MSU, Montana State University. These are some of the things that we're suffering from health issues in Indian country. There should be some more that are added to that. I haven't had a chance to upgrade this actual chart, but some of these medicines can help with diabetes. We have people here that know the combination for diabetes. I've seen some people come to this lady that has it with a diabetes, a number at 800, and by the time she finished her gallon jar of the medicine she made, it was down to 300. So it just continued to drop. Do we have something for all these things? And even COVID effects. During the COVID time, I made gallons and gallons and gallons of things for people with COVID. But there's a combination that we have here that's really powerful. This is one of the most number one things for your body. And our people will tell you that since time immemorial, respect. Respect your body, your mind, and your spirit. Right now, there's so much of this that's not done. So much of it that we forget because we're moving too fast. We're watching, and there's nothing against technology. I wouldn't be able to do this if I didn't have my granddaughter fix me a PowerPoint. But I have to remember that long ago, the respect come from just simple things. You respect the land, you respect the plants, you respect each other, and you respect your space. Also, the big thing is respecting that cycle, the season, the time, the winter and the summer. Now we have spring, summer, and fall. But also our new year is not January 1. We all know it's when the thunder comes. It's Takumana comes and tells us it's time for the new year. So we keep that in mind as we go, because right down to everybody's cells and membranes, there's some reason for you to respect that. Lymph, you have your blood system, you have all these systems that come from this. And there's a way that our people held traditional laws to show that respect for that. These are our younger generation, next generation of healers. That's my granddaughter there at 5 years old. She transferred in as a leader of the Nipomakiks. This year she's 13, she transfers out, coming of age, making that step. And these are my two granddaughters watching the process of the Medicine Lodge. There's plants, there's animals, there's a whole process of respect in this generation of people. Other grandkids and myself in the fairy garden. This one here is kind of cool because, we talk about the little people that plant tobacco. And tobacco is one of the things that people don't understand. We didn't have the carcinogens. We had the tobacco that was planted by the little people. But if you look real good and hard, you can see this little person here. You can see a little person here. And all around me on this circle, there's little people. There's a little person here. But just go ahead and you guys can squint your eyes. I won't say anything. But this is part of that tobacco planting process that there's the tobacco planting ceremonies that are coming back. And it's really important because we had the little people, the little planters that helped us do that. Even in Ireland, they have little people, and those are called leprechauns, but they're kind of like Napi. They're both good and they're both bad. This is a Nicotiana tobacco plant that I grew myself. I just wanted to share that with you, along with the kaksi and the red osier dogwood willow bark would make a good combination of smoking tobacco without the carcinogenic properties that we see in cigarettes and the tobacco that comes from Virginia or England. Our people gravitated towards the twist tobacco, but that was an import. I call them alien plants because they come from somewhere else. They weren't here, just like the cows are alien. These cows are ruining the reservation, and I'm not afraid to say it. You see it now. It was so green and so beautiful, and the grass was so tall, and all these cows start coming in the past 3 weeks. The grass is starting to dwindle, starting to get brown again, and it's starting to, a season, it's just for a little while, but they can't keep them off to let it replenish, And that's kind of painful, but it's just the way it is. It's economics, it's different things, and cows are good. Yeah, we eat the beef and stuff, but I'm an advocate to go back to straight buffalo. Well, I thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. This is my backyard with a few things in it. I have the mountain ash, Savisberry, chokecherry. I've added bee balm in there. This is my granddaughter checking out the wishing well that doesn't have water in it. But this is just my part in sharing with you some of the things that I love to do every day. This is a good time to gather certain things. There's certain things that you gather now, and then certain things you gather in the fall. One thing I don't have is the bullberry, and the bullberry you gather in the fall because after the first frost it gets sweeter, it's that bitter one. It's kind of like currants, but there's a whole story on Napi and the bullberry, how we gather that one. When I went through Shoto the other day, I was very disappointed because there was nothing but bullberries all along the roadside. They're all gone now because they're putting in something else. They just plowed them all up. I stopped and asked if they could just give me one plant, and they said, well, they're going to burn them. So that's kind of sad because that was one of our old agency on the Teton, was where we gathered a lot of our stuff. So any questions before I have 2 helper ladies come help me? Yes, ma'am.
That waterfall.
Vita Makan?
Yeah. Can infants go there?
Oh, yeah. Are you going to stay for tomorrow as well?
I think I might go tomorrow.
You can come anytime. You just go up to East Glacier, and you go under the underpass, and you follow that road. It'll say To Medicine. You keep on that road, and you stay up on the high part. And it's kind of rough right now, but then you'll get into the park. It'll say Glacier National Park. You go in maybe not even 2 miles, and there'll be a turnout there. It'll say Pita Makan Running Eagle Falls. There's a stop there. There's like a rest stop where there's washrooms on the side, and there's a trail you hike up there. It's less than, how long does it take? Maybe 10 minutes or less to walk there? Yeah, it's easily accessible. That's one of the things that we made sure of. It's also wheelchair accessible, so I see you have your scooter with you. Yeah, you can make it there because the trail is pretty wide. Yeah. But then we also fixed a walkway through there with plant identification. So there's pictures of that plant there, and the scientific name, the Blackfoot name, and the uses are on that trail as well. Yeah, everybody can, it's free. You do not have to pay. We kind of made sure of that. Where's those little girls? Books are put. Come, baby. Can you make sure everybody gets a spoon? Just hand this to them and then make sure everybody gets a spoon. Yeah, you would one of them to get the skins off, but I didn't know it. I got home and I just sat there and cried because I can't stuck to my foot.
What is she doing? I had a berry stuck in my shoe. She thought that was.
I'm just gonna chat it. Yeah. On my tea. Yeah.
What I have to do is, yeah, that goes to that one.
I can help you load up once you're ready. I'll be right back.
I need oatmeal. Got it. These were done here at the, with the science, our science class here at the college, actually years and years and years ago.
2007.